Welcome, everybody. Welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome, fellow dregs to society. Welcome, all you rock dwellers. Welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. And joining me as my co-host is the patriot from the battle-born state, the silver state of Nevada. That's my very good and dear friend, Sharron Angle. Sharron, welcome back to Conservative Commandos.
Thank you, Rick. It's always great to be here. And of course, after the last week that we've had watching the Democrats, some people are calling it the clown show. I had to be kind of interested in what Dick Morris had to say last week on Conservative Commandos radio show. He participates with us on the AUN TV network, and one of the things that he said was, watch for outliers in this Democrat debate, that there are so many candidates, but he said we know who the main players are, but watch for those ones that you didn't have any idea they were even running. So it was interesting to watch that last week. I think I watched enough to be informed about them. It was kind of interesting. If you take it seriously, you just can't help but cuss the TV, you know. but some of them are still in the running. I was surprised that Kamala Harris was the hands-down winner. They all proclaimed her to be the winner over Joe Biden. So that was an outcome I don't think that was anticipated at least by Joe Biden, and probably not by Bernie Sanders either, because they going in were the hands-on favorites.
Well, Sharron, you know that old expression, you're a better woman than I am a man, Gunga Din? I didn't watch. I didn't watch. First of all, you got 25 candidates. I don't know if they were all there. What was this thing, over 2 days?
2 days, that's right.
Sharron, to me, it was like not even dress rehearsal for a play. This was not even like exhibition games during the spring training for all these candidates. Wake me up when the real show starts. All right. When we get, let's not even talk about the regular season. Let's talk about the playoffs. 25 candidates. The little clips that I saw and heard about, they all tried to run to the left of each other. It was a real, my gosh, it would probably take an Einstein to figure out all the money these candidates want to spend, all their crazy ideas, all their crazy schemes. But you're right about Kamala Harris. And I got an article here from townhall.com, Guy Benson. Polls, Biden drops overall, but makes gain among black voters after shaky debate performance. The Democratic National Convention is 54 weeks away, but former Vice President Joe Biden's front-runner status has slipped a bit, according to a new Politico poll. And Guy Benson calls these results preliminary for now, and we'll wait for more data from other polls, but the results suggest that Biden remains the clear front-runner despite an unprecedented surprising surge from Kamala Harris. His poll position is less dominant, but this doesn't look like a collapse. Interesting, you say that everybody says that she was the winner of the poll, but Biden is making gains among blacks.
Well, even after she attacked him, that was the interesting thing, is she attacked him for that. It kind of came out of nowhere, that he thought, although I'm not sure why he wasn't more prepared for it. That's the whole thing. When you go into debate, you do debate prep. I certainly prepped to debate Harry Reid, and you should. There's no excuse for not anticipating the questions, anticipating how people are going to attack you, and having answers for those attacks. So it was kind of interesting to watch them look like they've been blindsided. So who's running the show over there? You know, if you can't even be prepared for these 30-second questions in this debate, or these 33 minutes, I think they're just not long answers. It's easy to prep for this kind of stuff, and even she didn't quite get it right. She said, "Well, I just misunderstood the question." So she flip-flopped there on healthcare, and so it was kind of, as Dick Morris says, a clown show. I guess to me it was surprising that the supporters of Pete Buttigieg, they're still hanging in there. They were able to rally almost $25 more million for him, and Bernie says age shouldn't be a problem here. It shouldn't be a problem. So, okay.
I agree with Bernie. Age is a number, life is an attitude. But
right. But they're all kind of on the defense. It was kind of interesting just to see the shaking going on. And I guess the outlier in all of this was a woman named Marianne Williamson, who is a professor. And she gets the Bloomberg nod. They think she is just what the Democrat Party needs. But, wow, some of the things she said, you just say, where does that come from, and how does it fit into policy and issues? But actually, who cares on the Democrat side? They've never been really good on issues and policy anyway. It's all theatrics and what do you call, a personal attack and character assassination, just personality stuff. It's never been about the issues for them anyway. So who cares?
Who cares? Well, Sharron, we do need to take our first break because we've got some great guests joining us here on the Conservative Commandos we can talk about after break, but you are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. Today's show, like all our shows, is being brought to you by the First Amendment, protected by the Second. Don't go away. Sharron and I will be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving, and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
And thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. And for rebroadcast of our show, please go to our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. And you can find our radio show there, our TV show there, a lot of terrific articles, and a lot of great information. And Sharron, we've got 3 great guests joining us once again today.
We do. Our first guest is a longtime friend of ours, David Rubin, who is the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, and author of the new book, Trump and the Jews. Rubin is the founder and president of Shiloh Israel Children's Fund, established after he and his then 3-year-old son were wounded in a terror attack. And he can be found at www.davidrubinisrael.com. We've asked David to come on and talk about Iran threatens escalation to weapons-grade uranium enrichment on July 7th, putting atomic bombs in their hands by year's end. Iran,
very scary situation.
Yeah, and they put President Trump and the world on notice that if the president does not remove his sanctions by Iran's unilaterally imposed deadline of July 7th, they will begin weapons-grade uranium enrichment, likely putting them just months away from having multiple atomic bombs, making them a nuclear power on the par with China and the United States. This is, something we've been covering. We have had several guests on to talk about this Iranian threat and how close they are to nuclear dominance in the world, or not dominance, but at least nuclear
presence. And it's scary to think that Iran is going to have nuclear weapons in its hands. And of course, the past couple of weeks, we've seen attacks on ships in the Straits of Hormuz. Our drone was shot down over the Straits of Hormuz. President Trump threatened to do something. For whatever reason, he pulled back from that. These are madmen. These are madmen, Sharron, and it's, wow. I don't want to see nuclear weapons in their hands. They're radicals. They want to destroy Israel. I think if they tried that would draw us certainly into some sort of a war. I don't want us to go to war, but I'll tell you one thing. We can't let Iran get a nuclear weapon. Even if we have to bomb them back to the Stone Age, we cannot let people like that get a hold of a nuclear weapon, because I really do think that they will use it. A lot of countries like ours, like Russia, like China, they have nuclear weapons, but I think they have more as a deterrent, so no one uses a nuclear weapon against them. But these guys, I think they want it with the intentions of using it, or at least holding the world hostage. That's very scary.
I think you're absolutely right. And I want to point our listeners back to a previous show that we did with Sargis Sangari, who is talking to us about Trump was right with his sanctions and how he is able to curb some of the activities in Iran through these sanctions. So I would just point to that interview. It was very enlightening to me about what we gleaned from their shooting down of our drone in the first place, and then also how what the strategy is there concerning Iran. Of course, Sangari is a military man. He was with Special Forces, and so I trust his evaluation of that situation. And I would just point our listeners back to that interview. It was quite enlightening. And we are going on to our second guest today, who is Hans von Spakovsky, another longtime friend of the show, who is an authority on a wide range of issues, including civil rights, civil justice, the First Amendment, immigration, the rule of law, and government reform. As a senior fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Edwin Meese III Center for Legal and Judicial Studies. His analysis and commentary have appeared in the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Times, Political, Human Events, National Review Online, and Town Hall. And along with John Fund, he is the co-author of Who's Counting? How Fraudsters and Bureaucrats Put Your Vote at Risk, and Obama's Enforcer, Eric Holder's Justice Department. We've asked Hans to come on and discuss an article he wrote, Why the Supreme Court Got It Right on Gerrymandering. And I, as a gerrymandered state, I'm interested to hear what Hans has to say about that. Because, of course, we'd like to see gerrymandering stop right at this point, but I don't think that that's Hans's take, so it'll be interesting to hear him. And our last guest is a new friend of the show, Edward Ring, who is the co-founder and senior fellow at the California Policy Center, a free market think tank based in Southern California, where he served as the first president. He's also a senior fellow with the Center for American Greatness. He is a prolific writer on topics of political reform and sustainable economic development. His work has appeared and been cited in publications including the Los Angeles Times, Wall Street Journal, and The Economist. Edward Ring has an undergraduate degree in political science from UC Davis and an MBA in finance from the University of Southern California. He's written an excellent article, A Strategy to Transform California in One Election. And reading through this article, I'm really excited to hear Edward talk more in depth about the ways his strategy will transform California in the 2020 election. Not only the strategy, but just these, they are just common sense solutions. And I don't think they're just applicable to California, Rick. It looks to me like these are applicable to every freedom-loving American in every state of the union, because he is really going after an agenda that he doesn't, I don't think he's labeling it as a leftist agenda. He's just saying that they are fanatic leftist identitarians is what he's calling them, and he's really going after those who fund the policy, I guess the policy behind what the Democrat lunatics are proposing now. It is, once again, as we say on this show from time to time, follow the money. Follow the money, because when you find out where the money comes from, you'll actually find out what the motivation is.
Well, the first line of his article here, California's conservative voters are disenfranchised. We're talking California, Sharron Angle. We're talking the home of Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon. And maybe Edward Ring will be able to give us an idea of how California has gotten to where it is now from those days when Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan were governors and went on to the presidency. Things certainly has changed out on the left coast. So indeed, we do have three great guests joining us. And of course, that's the hallmark of the Conservative Commandos radio show. And Sharon, let me just say to our listeners and our viewers, If you have a guest, or if maybe you would like to be a guest here in the Conservative Commandos radio show, the easiest way to do that is just contact me, Rick Trader. My email address is very simple. It's long, but it's simple. It's rick@conservativecommandosradioshow.com. rick@conservativecommandosradioshow.com. So if you find an interesting article, or if you have somebody you'd like to bring on as a guest, or maybe you would like to be a guest here on Conservative Commandos, please send an email to me. And again, that's rick@conservativecommandosradioshow.com. I know it's long, but it's easy. rick@conservativecommandosradioshow.com. Also, please check out our website. Our website, that's easier. That's CCRShow.com, CCRShow.com. You'll find rebroadcast of our TV show there, of our radio show, a lot of terrific articles, a lot of terrific information. And by the way, Facebook relented. We were banned on Facebook for about 8 weeks, but Facebook has relented. We're now back on Facebook, and they says, "Oh, we're sorry. It was a mistaken identity." Yeah. Okay.
Not our fault. Not our fault.
Not our fault. Not our fault. But we're back on Facebook. We're glad to be back on Facebook. Sharon, a lot of conservatives are leaving Facebook. They feel that Facebook is prejudice against conservatives. I agree with that, but at the same time, I say, hey, let's use the enemy's resources for as long as we can, as long as we can have a presence on Facebook, as long as we can try to put our stuff out on Facebook. We got to use that. We got to use that option.
Well, and as long as there aren't other alternatives, too, it is a great forum for us to reach out to those of like mind, and also those who are just looking for pure education and information. We understand that we have a bias that we come from. I think everybody in the world has a certain bias. You can't enter this world and not have an opinion of some kind. Although I have to hand it to our education system. They are certainly trying to make our children as unopinionated or as non-critically thinking as possible. It's very difficult to persuade a young person to have an opinion because they're so afraid of offending
someone. Their opinion is based, a lot of the opinions that's pushed on our kids by their teachers, by the professors, is utter nonsense. Just as an example, this global warming or climate change. I believe in climate change, and I've talked about it here, Sharon, that in the last 100,000 years, we've had 4 ice ages. That's climate change, but mankind had nothing to do with it. I mean, 12,000 years ago, there was a sheet of ice that covered North America, all the way down to Princeton, New Jersey. In some places, that ice sheet was 2 miles thick. Obviously, there's been climate change for that ice to melt, but that ice didn't melt by people heating their homes or driving their cars. It's a cycle. It's a universal cycle of the earth. Hey, Sharon, we got to take a break and get our first guest on. But you are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with our good friend David Rubin. He's a former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. And we're going to be talking about Iran is threatened to enrich uranium to produce nuclear weapons if the president doesn't remove its sanctions. Don't go away. We'll be right back with our first guest, David Rubin.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
And welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. And once again, as a reminder for rebroadcasts of our show, please check out our website, CCRShow.com. That's CCRShow.com. And there you'll find our TV show, our radio show, a lot of terrific articles, and a lot of great information. And Sharron, we have a longtime friend with us today. Please make that introduction.
Yes, we do. And it's always a pleasure for me to introduce David Rubin, who's the mayor of Shiloh, Israel, and author of the new book, Trump and the Jews. David Rubin is the founder and president of Shiloh Israel Children's Fund, established after he and his then 3-year-old son were wounded in a terror attack. He can be found at www.davidrubinisrael.com. David, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Well, you're welcome. Good to be with you, Sharron and Rick.
Thank you. I hope you notice that I'm pronouncing it both ways. Shiloh is the Israeli way, and Shiloh is the American way, spelled the same.
Yes. You know that old song.
Yes.
Right? You call it Shiloh, I call it Shiloh.
We know that song. Well, we want to talk to you, though, about Iran. They've threatened escalation of weapons-grade uranium enrichment on July the 7th. That's coming right up, putting atomic bombs in their hands by year's end. We've been kind of waiting for this. They've been rattling their sabers, so to speak, over there for quite a while. So what do you think about this threat? I mean, you're living right there close by in the neighborhood where you're probably their main target there in Israel.
Well, we are. We're not the only target. They do have their sights set on quite a few countries, and even a few of them that are Muslim countries. So there's a lot of concern about Iran. You know, there's just no question about it. Iran is on the warpath, and they're trying to. They're the bully in the schoolyard, basically. And the question is whether the free world is going to stand up to them. Unfortunately, Europe, which probably has the most at stake here, they probably won't stand up to them. That's a sad thing, that Europe has lost its ability to stand up for itself. It's lost its self-preservation principles, and once you've lost the self-preservation principle, you've lost it all.
Well, and I think they really are dependent upon Israel as the first line of defense, and the United States to foot the bill and come in if they're needed. So, I guess they stand back and say, "Why? What we worry? We've got a couple of folks in line ahead that will defend the turf."
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I know it's not politically correct to say this. President Trump used to say it before he was elected. He used to say, the next time Iran starts to make trouble, you go in and you take their oil fields. And, take their oil fields, take their oil. That used to be the way people would fight wars. Mm-hmm. They go in to win. It's an unheard of concept nowadays.
Well,
but that is how you win. That is how you win wars. You go in and you do the job, and to the victors go the spoils. Okay, you get their oil, and you control those oil fields, and you don't hand over the funds back to Iran, and you don't hand over the funds to France or England or any of the other wimpy countries that aren't standing up for themselves.
Sadly to say, though, we have some politicians in our country that are kind of interesting. Former Senator John Kerry took the position that we should allow Iran to have free rein to enrich uranium and see if they'll use it for peaceful means. Is he kidding? Use it for peaceful means. I don't get that.
I don't think that John Kerry and his sidekick Jane Fonda are the ones who we should be looking to for advice or guidance. Let's leave it at that.
Okay, but we have our own battles here on the home front sometimes to fight with folks that are just, as you described, the Europeans, not courageous enough to go in and do what it takes. And I really am thankful that we have President Trump at the helm right now. It would look very grim if it were only Israel and your prime minister willing to take the initiative here and control some of this stuff. You said that Iran had some Arabic or Islamic countries in their sights as well. What countries are they threatening?
Well, I think their major goal is, other than Israel, of course, is Saudi Arabia. They would love to get a hold of Saudi Arabia, and they would love to dominate Saudi Arabia and overthrow the government in Saudi Arabia. They've made that pretty clear. And they've been using surrogates to attack Saudi Arabia. They've done it a few times. And, of course, they use their surrogates to attack Israel in Syria. They're from Syria. And so we've been attacking them. Preemptive strikes, of course, to stop them from setting up their military bases there. Look, we know Iran has been at work for a couple of decades now to build up their nuclear arsenal. They've been busy for a couple of decades to export what they call exporting their Islamic revolution. I wrote about it all in my book, Trump and the Jews. And here, by the way, I should just show the book, Trump and the Jews, okay, to everybody out there. Okay, I don't know if you got it. Okay. So,
David, hold it up again because it didn't come into focus.
Well, that's the problem with Skype.
Hold it up a little higher there. There it is, Trump and the Jews.
Sometimes our faces don't come into focus on Skype, but we'll try for the book. How's that?
That's
okay.
good.
Good.
That's good. Thank you.
Well, we're grateful that you wrote that book, David, because it has been a conundrum, a puzzlement, at least, to us here who watch the Jews in our United States vote almost unilaterally for Democrats, and yet Trump is the one who has defended them probably more than any other president in the recent past. And certainly the conservatives in America are the ones that are more than happy to be allied with Israel and to help in any way we can.
So how do we explain it? That's your question.
That's exactly right. How do we explain it?
Yes. Okay, so look, it is about 70% of the Jewish community, unfortunately. And, these are the Jews who are not strongly identified with their heritage. Unfortunately, American Jews are the religious group that is the least connected to its religion. And this is what the research shows, and some of that research I reported on in my book, Trump and the Jews. But there is about, anywhere from 20 to 30% of the Jewish community in America that is strongly identified with its heritage, and those tend to go Republican, and those tend to be among President Trump's biggest supporters. And that's why in Israel, where only American Israelis, like myself, have the right to vote in America, because we possess dual citizenship, we're the only ones who actually can vote. But Israelis love President Trump. If they took a survey in Israel on the most popular politician in Israel, you would see that President Trump would win, hands down, because he's doing a great job overall. And as far as standing for America and standing strong with America's allies, like Israel, he's just been tremendous. He's an out of the box thinker, and he's an out of the box actor, and that's one of his greatest strengths.
Well, and getting back to his policies with Iran, he has done some sanctioning that really will bring Europe to the table, do you think?
We'll bring Europe to the table. Well, Europe to the table with whom? Are they going to come to the table with President Trump? Are they going to come to the table with Iran and try to make a new deal with Iran and extend their deal with Iran? Look, the Iranians, as of today, they are in blatant defiance of that nuclear deal, which they still have with Europe. They are enriching uranium beyond the limits that they are allowed. That's dangerous stuff. They're on their way to a nuclear bomb, unless they are stopped. And so who's going to stop them? Is it going to be Angela Merkel? I mean, she can't stop her. She can't stop the radical Muslims in her own country. How is she going to stop the Shiite Muslims in Iran, the Ayatollahs? She's not going to be the one to do it. Unfortunately, it's going to have to be some sort of combination of the United States and Israel and Saudi Arabia and maybe one or two other Persian Gulf countries, because we're the ones who have the biggest stake in this, and unfortunately, or fortunately, we do need at least the passive support of the United States in this struggle.
Well, I know that you have the overwhelming support of, we here at Conservative Commandos radio show. We're big fans, and we have to go to a break now. We're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos radio network studios and around the world on the internet. We also can be seen in Northern California on the AUN TV network. We're speaking with our guest, David Rubin, about Iran and their coming threat of July 7th having nuclear enrichment. They're going to do atomic bombs by the year's end, they're saying. We'll be right back after this message with our co-host Rick Trader, and I'm Sharron Angle.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes. Now, people say, why didn't you report it to the authorities? Well, they were the ones doing it.
The integrity of one man, one vote doesn't apply at the Texas state legislature. There is no way to know if your representatives are voting for themselves.
Hartman, a Republican, reaches back to vote for Democrat Oliveira. Democrat Matt Reynolds votes for Republican England.
2 out of 3 voters nationwide believe that voter fraud is a serious problem in the U.S. today.
The process is rigged.
Both sides of the aisle are guilty.
Florida now has to tell the Department of Justice whether the state will comply with DOJ's demand to stop purging thousands of people from its voter rolls.
We have the sloppiest election system of any industrialized democracy.
Philadelphia flagged 50,000 duplicate registrations, so just think how many more slipped through.
It's almost impossible to detect. How do you get caught? You only get caught if you confess.
Election corruption is deeply embedded in America. Quote, election fraud is a crime that usually pays, unquote, writes Tracy Campbell in his book, Deliver the Vote, A History of Election Fraud, an American political tradition from 1742 to 2004. In 1742, the first Prime Minister of Britain in the American colonies, Robert Walpole, was forced to resign.
We have a right not to have our vote canceled out by someone who shouldn't be voting, someone who's an illegal alien, someone who's a felon not eligible to vote, someone who doesn't exist. If they vote, they cancel your vote out as much as if you're prevented from voting.
If this is going to be fixed, it's going to have to be a citizen effort. It comes down to, it's the same old question, if not now, when? If not us, then who?
This is huge. This is about the democracy and the principles of the United States of America. People say, but why you? Why you? Why not? And if it starts with a fireman, if it starts with a sanitation worker, if it starts with a teacher or a nurse or a caretaker of the elderly, then so be it. It's got to start somewhere. But it's time we come together and fix this problem once and for all.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
Serious allegations of voter fraud, the claims raising questions about the
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others were on a military plane that crashed today in a violent storm. There are no known survivors at this time.
The U.S. Army was funded by the evil entity.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
The process is rigged.
People die and they fall for the right time. It's too brutal.
So it's incredibly important now that we draw a line and say, not on our watch.
And welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. Want to give a shout out to the folks who listen to us on radio stations in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Boulder and Colorado Springs, Milwaukee, Long Beach, California, Arlington, Virginia, Washington, D.C. Indeed, we are everywhere. We are everywhere. Our guest this segment is David Rubin. He's the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. He's also the author of the book, Trump and the Jews. David, thank you for holding through that break, and let's see that book again, David.
Okay, here it is. Let's see if we could do it in the light this time.
Pull it back a little bit so it comes
Okay.
a little bit more. Pull it back more so it comes into focus. Yeah, for whatever reason, your camera's not focusing on it, David, but it's Trump and the Jews. David,
all that people have to do is just go to Amazon.com and just type in Trump and the Jews. They'll get a really good picture of it.
There you go. And I know my editor-in-chief will also put a really good picture of it up on our TV show. We're discussing Iran threatens the escalation of weapons-grade uranium enrichment by July 7th, putting atomic bombs into their hands by year's end. David, this is really, really scary stuff at least for us here in the United States. I cannot imagine living in Israel under that kind of threat. What's it like?
What it's like is that we go on with our lives and we do everything that we normally would do. We don't let it stop us, but we are concerned. I can't say we're not concerned. We're definitely concerned. And right now it's kind of a precarious time. It could be they're taking advantage of it. But right now Israel is going towards new elections in September. So it could be that Iran is a little bit taking advantage of the fact that it's kind of a transitional government. But I can assure you, once a new government is in, at sometime in October, hopefully, then we'll see some real attention being paid to this issue. It's definitely coming to a head, and it's definitely something to be concerned about.
David, I know you said you can't depend on anything positive coming out of Europe. I wonder even how much positive you're going to get out of the United States. I know you have a president that does have your back, but it seems like Congress does not. Do you trust your government, the Israeli government, to do something to intervene so Iran never does get a nuclear bomb? I know a few years back, the centrifuges were destroyed by Israel. They hacked into their system. They sped up their centrifuges to the point where they destroyed themselves. I know they did that, but do you have faith in Israel, in your government, to do something so Iran never does pose that kind of a threat?
Well, this is life and death, Rick. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a game. It's not a game. I may joke about it from time to time. It is not a game at all. It's very serious business. And when Israel has proven, Israel's leaders, wherever they fall on the political spectrum, have proven that when push comes to shove and it's a life and death situation, we're going to do what we need to do. So right now, it's kind of in a holding pattern, I admit, and our Air Force and our Navy have been attacking Iran in Syria, where they've been working very hard to set up their military bases to attack Israel from there. They're not being allowed to do that, though. We just attacked them yesterday. Picked off 15 Iranian Revolutionary Guards, who interestingly are in Syria. What are they doing there? So, I think we should be hitting them a lot harder and not taking out 15 Revolutionary Guards, take out about 15,000 in one day. And then I think they'll be turning around with their tails facing us.
David, as you say that the Israeli government right now is kind of in a transition. You're going to have new elections in September, you mentioned. We know now that there is a strong leader, at least we consider him a strong leader, as the prime minister in Israel, Bibi Netanyahu. Let's just say that these elections don't go the way that many of us would like, and Bibi Netanyahu's party is not the party in control come September, come October, as you say, when the new government would be instituted. Do you still have faith in the opposition party that they're going to do the right thing to protect Israel, to stop Iran?
Well, it's possible that they may do something to stop Iran. I'm not so sure that they're going to be strong in other areas. As I said, existential threats usually are countered by whatever Israeli government is in power, whether it's right of center or left of center. But in terms of doing the things that Israel needs to be doing, Israel needs a strong right-wing government now. And especially when there's President Trump in Washington. And, so we need to be working together to bring about world peace. And sometimes to bring about world peace, you have to attack the bad people.
Indeed, we do.
I used to teach my children when they were little. We have these fairy tales, right? And you got the big bad wolf, and why do we tell these stories about big bad wolves? The big bad wolves. Do we believe?
David, speaking of big bad wolf, what about the big bad bear? I mean, we've been talking about Israel, we've been talking about Iran, we've been talking about Syria, we've been talking about Germany and France, but what about Russia? All right, what do you think Russia's? What do you think Russia's play is going to be in this?
Yeah, Russia is not a positive player here.
Yeah.
But we have learned that it's better to be talking to them than not to be talking to them. So there was just a conference in Jerusalem, a trilateral meeting, not really a conference, a trilateral meeting between Secretary Bolton, National Security Advisor, and National Security Advisors for Israel and Russia. And so Russia has been sitting around in Syria, kind of supervising Syria, trying to prop up Assad, and at the same time not to get into trouble with Israel. So Israel has been attacking Iran, which has been in Syria for some time now, trying to prop up Assad, but as I said, also trying to develop a strong military base that they can use against Israel, because Syria is just over the border from Israel.
It's amazing. I was in Israel a few years ago. We were up in the Golan Heights, and we were looking right down into Syria, and we were told Damascus is only 40 miles away. I mean, right. Geographically, I wonder if people here in the United States realize when we talk about the Middle East, wow, it's really talking about like the northeast section of the United States.
That's right.
And you were talking about Iran. I mean, Iran has no great love for Saudi Arabia, and that Iran would like to take out Saudi Arabia. Well, there's only one thing in the way, and that's Israel. I mean, it's not that great a distance from Iran to Saudi Arabia, but that's right over Israel. Am I right about that, David?
Yeah, we're all pretty close. It's kind of like, if New Jersey would decide to take out Pennsylvania, but if Pennsylvania had an alliance with Connecticut, so it would be a bit of a problem. You would have a whole bunch of people getting involved in the region. So that's what we have here. Iran and Saudi Arabia are very close. It's a matter of tens of miles, and
close geographically, politically quite different. Hey, David, we've got to go. David Rubin, former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. He's also the author of the book Trump and the Jews. David, let's make one more attempt to show that book before we say goodbye to you. And David, if people want to learn more about what you do and what you write, where should they go?
Well, the best thing is to go to davidrubinisrael.com. davidrubinisrael.com. They could get more information about Trump and the Jews and all of my books, and they can check out some of the media appearances.
All right. Hey, David, we want to thank you once again for joining us. Take care and God bless.
Thank you.
And this is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation. He's written a great article, Why the Supreme Court Got It Right on Gerrymandering. Don't go away. Sharron and I will be right back with our next guest.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
And once again, thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show. My co-host today is Sharron Angle, and I'm Rick Trader. And please like us, friend us, and follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. And with that, Sharron, we do have our next guest with us. He's a longtime friend of the show once again. And once again, please make him feel welcome.
Thank you, Rick. It's an honor for me to introduce Hans von Spakovsky, who is an authority on a wide range of issues, including civil rights, civil justice, the First Amendment, immigration, the rule of law, and government reform. As a senior legal fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Edwin Meese III Center for Legal and Judicial Studies, his analysis and commentary have appeared in the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Times, Politico, Human Events, National Review Online, and Town Hall. And along with John Fund, he is the co-author of Who's Counting? How Fraudsters and Bureaucrats Put Your Vote at Risk, and Obama's Enforcer, Eric Holder's Justice Department. So 2 books there. Hans, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Well, thanks for having me back.
It's our pleasure always. And we wanted to discuss an article that you wrote, Why the Supreme Court Got It Right on Gerrymandering. Now, they've made a decision on gerrymandering. I guess what we should first do is have you do a little definition of gerrymandering, and then we'll go into their decision, all right?
I will do that. Well, gerrymandering is the term referring to the drawing of new legislative districts. In most states, it's the state legislature that does that, both for state seats and for Congress. There's a couple of states that have put in so-called independent redistricting commissions. But in essence, it's drawing the boundary lines for representatives in the legislature. The cases before the Supreme Court were one out of North Carolina, one out of Maryland. The Maryland case was Republican voters who said that the state legislature had drawn up a congressional district that had been Republican so that it would be Democratic, therefore favoring the Democratic Party unfairly. The North Carolina case was the Democratic Party saying that the Republican legislature had drawn up a number of congressional seats to favor the Republican Party. And this was all before the court because there was no claim that any of these districts violated the Voting Rights Act. There was no claim they were discriminatory towards, for example, black voters. And there was also no claim, the other claim that can be made, that they violated the Equal Protection Clause, the one person, one vote standard. That's the rule that says that the populations of districts have to be as equal as possible. No, what they said was engaging in partisan line drawing. If you draw lines to favor one political party, that is a violation of the Constitution. Now, look, everybody's always unhappy with partisan gerrymandering. It's been with us since actually before we became a country. It even happened during colonial times. But this task, this authority was assigned by the Constitution to state legislatures, not federal courts. And what the court said in a 5-4 decision, and it was a split right down the middle with the conservatives on one side, the liberals on the other, was no matter how much we want to complain about partisan gerrymandering, that is not an issue for the courts, the federal courts, to deal with. It's an issue for state legislatures and potentially Congress, which also has authority over it.
Well, and of course, for those of us sitting in these gerrymandered states, we're really disappointed. But I guess we'll get over it, right?
Yeah, no, I understand that. But if you dig down through what the challengers were saying in these cases, in essence, they were claiming that the Constitution guarantees proportional representation for political parties. And we all know that the Constitution doesn't do that. Because in essence, what they were saying was that if, for example, a statewide Democratic Party candidate in a state like North Carolina, if he or she gets 60% of the vote, well, they were claiming it would be a violation of the Constitution if they don't get 60% of the congressional seats and 60% of the state legislative seats. And I'm sorry, but political parties aren't guaranteed representation in the U.S. Constitution.
And aren't we glad that it's people that are guaranteed representation? But of course, like I said, in a gerrymandered state like Nevada, we're looking at what the 2020 election will bring. If we can't turn our legislature back to a more conservative brand of politics, we're looking at Democrat rule for the next 10 years. And of course, that's quite frightening to us living on the border with California, because we've seen what that kind of gerrymandering has done to California. And yet it happens just the opposite in states like Texas, for instance. So we see it favoring both parties, don't we, Hans?
Yeah, we do. And what's interesting about this, remember, it wasn't too long ago that Democrats actually controlled a majority of state legislatures around the country. They engaged in massive partisan redistricting, and they never claimed that somehow violated the Constitution. These lawsuits have only been filed by mostly Democrats ever since Republicans gained control of a majority of state legislatures around the country. And now all of a sudden they're claiming it's unconstitutional. And of course, look, the real problem here is, even if the courts were to get into this, is where do you draw the line? You know, obviously, even the plaintiffs in this case admitted that some politics is okay. It's just that too much politics is not okay. Well, where are you supposed to draw a line in between those two? That's just practically impossible.
Well, it looks like to me that they are really trying to do everything in their power coming up on these 2020 elections to kind of sway it in their favor a little bit, because we've seen this other thing coming along where we have the popular vote taking over instead of the electoral college. So and that really is a constitutional issue, don't you? Don't you think that the electoral college is constitutionally based and has a right to remain if we were to take that one to court?
No, absolutely. And actually, I have to compliment the Democratic governor of Nevada, who recently vetoed a bill. I think he's the first Democrat to actually do that in the nation. Other blue states have adopted this plan to get rid of the Electoral College, and he actually vetoed it, saying quite correctly, this would hurt a small state like Nevada.
Absolutely correct. And I think that he did bring himself up a bit in the estimation of many of his citizens, because we weren't sure that anybody on that side was getting it, that this is really not a political issue. And perhaps gerrymandering, even though it's done for political reasons, this whole idea of reapportionment is not as political, and that is what the courts were saying. This is not a political problem, although it has become used that way. It really is a constitutional issue, and the representation needs to be fairly meted out here. And I guess getting back to this whole decision by the courts, do you think more of these kinds of things will be coming up before 2020? Like I said, this seems like one of the strategies, I guess, on the Democrat side.
Well, I think what was going on here was the left poured a lot of money and resources into these cases before the Supreme Court. And they weren't the only cases. There were cases in other states like Michigan and Ohio, too. But the federal courts have now been foreclosed to them, because the court said, sorry, there's partisan redistricting is not a violation of the Constitution. But I think what you're going to see is the left is now going to pour money into cases in state courts, making claims under state constitutions. As you know, that's what they did in Pennsylvania. And after getting some new Democratic officials elected to the state Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court actually issued a ruling after 200 years, suddenly saying that partisan redistricting was a violation of the state constitution. So I think you'll see a similar pattern in other states around the country.
Well, the pattern that we've seen for years here is this movement to get the redistricting outside of the legislature and put it into what they call a nonpartisan committee of some kind, and yet that committee is not directly responsible to the voters, so the voters can't have a say-so. You know, if you don't like the way the lines are drawn, at least you can unelect a few people that drew those lines, but if you have a committee, what's your recourse?
Yeah, no, I have a real problem with these so-called independent commissions, because, as you say, they're not accountable to voters. And by the way, I actually had an article just a week or so ago in National Review about a study done by the Capital Research Center, in which they took a look at the California so-called Independent Redistricting Commission, and they found that commission, probably no surprise, had actually been drawing plans that favored the Democratic Party. In fact, the districts in California were more partisan than in Texas, where the state legislature, drew districts to favor Republicans. California turned out was even worse.
Well, and I think it's because those commissions are appointed by the governor, and it depends on who's in power, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we've we've had this debate many years here in Nevada because anytime you're taking any kind of responsibility away from the people, or any kind of power of checks and balances away from the people, it gets really dangerous. We are up against a break. We're talking with our guest, Hans von Spakovsky, about an article he wrote, Why the Supreme Court Got It Right on Gerrymandering. And we will be right back with Rick Trader. I'm Sharron Angle. After we go to a quick message, we are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM FM 24/7. And now you can see us on the AUN TV network. We'll be right back.
AM FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast, see a rebroadcast of our show, best place is to check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. Our guest this segment is Hans von Spakovsky, and Hans is an authority on a wide range of issues, and we've ask him to join us today to discuss an article he wrote, Why the Supreme Court Got It Right on Gerrymandering. Hans, thank you for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
Sure thing.
Hans, why is this important to us, we the people?
Well, look, this issue is important because obviously how we choose our representatives translates into how our government is run. The answer to people who say, well, the districts are too partisan, they're drawn in a way to favor one party too much. Look, the answer to that is to put in better standards, either under state law or a state constitution. I mean, to just give you a quick example, one of the things we complain about are districts where towns and cities are broken up into all these little pieces to favor one particular candidate. Well, states should put in rules saying that as much as possible, political subdivisions have to be kept together, towns, cities, counties, and that's one way of stopping, that kind of behavior.
Mm-hmm. Your article, Why the Supreme Court Got It Right on Gerrymandering, a 5-4 decision. Very close decision. And
it was.
And it makes me think, what would this look like? What would this decision look like if Hillary Clinton was the president? And
well, you know what it would look like.
It would look like a mess. It would look like a mess. But we are a very divided country, and as your article says, the Supreme Court got it right, 5-4 decision. What did the opposition, the minority opinion, what was their argument on this?
Well, Justice Elena Kagan wrote the minority opinion. Actually, it's kind of interesting in this case. There were only two opinions. Oftentimes all the justices will write differing opinions, concurring and dissenting. There were only two here. The majority opinion were the 5 conservatives, and the dissent written by Elena Kagan. And Elena Kagan she was so upset about this decision that she did something extremely unusual. Last Thursday, when this decision was released, she read parts of her dissent from the bench. That almost never happens. And in essence, she basically accused the majority of helping to destroy our democracy, not taking the steps necessary to ensure equal representation. She made a lot of assumptions that show that she's historically ignorant. And I'll give you just one example. She complained about the fact that the partisan redistricting today is extreme. It's in a way that we've never seen before in this country. That is patently untrue. And to just give you a quick laugh about this, there was actually a great amicus brief filed in this case by the Public Interest Legal Foundation. And you know what they did? They went and looked at the 1864 presidential election, right? That's when Abraham Lincoln was reelected. Well, the Democratic candidate in that race got upwards of 45% of the vote in many states. Mm-hmm. In 6 of the states where the Democrat got upwards in the 40th percentile of votes, the Republicans, when they redrew the congressional districts, made sure that there wasn't a single Democratic seat in any of those states. Now, that's extreme redistricting. We don't have anything that comes even close to that today.
Well, I bet George McClellan is still rolling in his grave over that one. Well, George, Hans, when you're talking about elections, you also wrote another great article. Faithless electors who break their promise rightly can be punished.
Yeah, there was a decision just recently out of the Washington State Supreme Court. And it turned out that, in 2016, remember there was this general movement or push across the country to try to convince electors not to vote for Donald Trump or to take actions that would prevent him from having enough votes in the Electoral College. Well, 4 of those electors were in Washington State. And they were actually been pledged to vote for Hillary Clinton. And instead of voting for Hillary Clinton, 3 of them voted for Colin Powell, and a 4th voted for the chief of one of the Indian tribes out there. So the state of Washington fined them $1,000 each. They contested that, saying that violated their right to vote, their First Amendment right, and the court said, no, it didn't. You made a pledge when you sought to be nominated by your political party to be one of those electors, and therefore the state does have the ability to fine you if you don't vote the way you promised, not only the party but voters that the way you would vote.
Well, $1,000 fine doesn't seem very much. I doubt that they are even going to pay that fine. Somebody else would.
Probably.
I think will pay that fine for them. So, for me, it's disappointing that it was only $1,000. I don't see any real teeth in that. Do you, Hans?
No, but the teeth is what some other states have done. Other states, rather than fining faithless electors, they've put in state statutes that remove the elector and replace him or her with an alternate elector if they try to vote against the way they promised to do it. And that's the most effective remedy to this kind of problem.
Interesting. I think a lot of people think that when they go to cast their vote for a particular presidential candidate, they're not actually voting for that candidate, but voting for somebody who is pledged to vote for that candidate in the Electoral College. And am I right about that, Hans?
Now, you are. Right in school? No, you are. In fact, the actual, we're all used to November when we go vote deciding the presidential election. No, the presidential election is actually decided in mid-December when the electors meet in each state at the state capitol and cast their votes for president.
I think that's why civics is so important to be taught in schools, which it isn't. But Hans von Spakovsky, we always enjoy having you here on Conservative Commandos radio show. Please tell our audience where they could go to follow your work and read your articles and also follow the work of the Heritage Foundation.
Sure, they can go to heritage.org, heritage.org. They can see everything I write there. They can also, of course, check out the Fox News website because I publish there on a weekly basis.
Hans, are you working on a new book?
Well, John Fund and I, my co-author, are thinking about a new book, and we're going to get together soon and discuss what exactly we want to talk about. So we don't have it yet, but we're going to do it.
All right. Hans von Spakovsky, thank you so much for joining us. Take care, and God bless.
Sure. Thank you.
This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. On the other side, we're going to be talking about a strategy to transform California in one election. Is that possible? Well, we will find out from our next guest.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes. Now, people say, why didn't you report it to the authorities? Well, they were the ones doing it.
Goes to vote for merit,
the integrity of one man, one vote doesn't apply at the Texas state legislature. There is no way to know if your representatives are voting for themselves.
Department, a Republican, reaches back to vote for Democrat Oliveira. Democrat Matt Reynolds votes for Republican England.
2 out of 3 voters nationwide believe that voter fraud is a serious problem in the U.S. today.
The process is rigged.
Both sides of the aisle are guilty.
Florida now has to tell the Department of Justice whether the state will comply with DOJ's demand to stop purging thousands of people from its voter rolls.
We have the sloppiest election system of any industrialized democracy.
Philadelphia flagged 50,000 duplicate registrations, so just think how many more slipped through.
It's almost impossible to detect. How do you get caught? You only get caught if you confess.
Election corruption is deeply embedded in America. Quote, election fraud is a crime that usually pays, unquote, writes Tracy Campbell in his book, Deliver the Vote, A History of Election Fraud, an American political tradition from 1742 to 2004. In 1742, the first Prime Minister of Britain in the American colonies, Robert Walpole, was forced to resign.
We have a right not to have our vote canceled out by someone who shouldn't be voting, someone who's an illegal alien, someone who's a felon not eligible to vote, someone who doesn't exist. If they vote, they cancel your vote out as much as if you're prevented from voting.
If this is going to be fixed, it's going to have to be a citizen effort. It comes down to, it's the same old question, if not now, when? If not us, then who?
This is huge. This is about the democracy and the principles of the United States of America. People say, but why you? Why you? Why? Well, why not? And if it starts with a fireman, if it starts with a sanitation worker, if it starts with a teacher or a nurse or a caretaker of the elderly, then so be it. It's got to start somewhere. But it's time we come together and fix this problem once and for all.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
Serious allegations of voter fraud. The claims raising questions about the
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others were on a military plane that crashed today in a violent storm. There are no known survivors at this time.
The U.S. Army was funded by the evil entity.
Saw voter fraud with my own eyes.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
The process is rigged.
People die and fall for the right time. It's too time.
So it's incredibly important now that we draw a line and say, not on our watch.
And welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle. Yes, that's Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. Once again, want to give a shout out to the folks who listen to us on stations in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Boulder and Colorado Springs, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Long Beach, California, and seen on the AUN television network in places like San Francisco, San Jose, Sacramento, Wine Country, and places in Northern California. And with that, Sharron, we have a new guest, first-time guest joining us here on the show. The honor of the introduction is yours.
It is an honor to introduce Edward Ring, who is the co-founder and senior fellow at California Policy Center, a free market think tank based in Southern California, where he served as their first president. He's also a senior fellow with the Center for American Greatness. He is a prolific writer on topics of political reform and sustainable economic development. His work has appeared and been cited in publications including the Los Angeles Times, the Wall Street Journal, and The Economist. Edward Ring has an undergraduate degree in political science from UC Davis and an MBA in finance from the University of Southern California. Welcome to Conservative Commandos radio show, Edward.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Well, we asked you to come on and talk about a great article that you've written, A Strategy to Transform California in One Election. Wow, we here in Nevada would greet that with open arms. Is it possible, Edward? We think so, because we know that there are lots of conservatives that still live there in California. But you have not only said that you have a strategy, you have gone through and numbered it out, just said, here are the steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to do this. So talk to us a little bit about your strategy and why it will only take one election.
Well, first of all, it's probably something that a lot of people would look at and call a conservative strategy. But if you read through these and you think about what's happening to all Californians, I think people take a second look, no matter what their ideology is, they're going to realize that these are good ideas. And that's why there's a potential for something like this to truly transform the state. California has the Citizens Initiative process, which bypasses the legislature, which is completely controlled by special interests. And I think there's a growing number of Californians of all parties who realize that it's not working for them anymore.
So you would plan then to use the initiative process. We also have that process in Nevada, and it works well. But it's hard to get all those signatures that are needed from citizens to actually get something on the ballot.
Well, that's true. And in California nowadays, it costs about $5 million to gather sufficient signatures to put one initiative on the ballot. But if you're marketing a slate of initiatives, if you've got 10 initiatives or a dozen initiatives, and you're marketing that, let's say, as a contract with California or a contract with Nevada, there's 24 states where you can put citizen initiatives on the state ballot. There's 18 states where you can put constitutional amendments on the state ballot. and that will fundamentally transform those states. So you get economies of scale if you come out there with 10 petitions and you've already put forward a campaign that explains that this is going to do everything at once. And most people that are going to sign one of them are probably going to sign all 10 or the whole dozen. So the idea is to try to put this together in a way where you get those economies of scale. And let's not forget, in California, there's 126, according to Forbes magazine, there's 126 billionaires. And you only have to find one patriot who's willing to do this. Most of the billionaires in California are corporate leftists, globalists, and so forth. And they have their beliefs and their convictions, and they're not going to give you money. A lot of them are scared, and a lot of them are just practical business people who want, for example, cheap labor. They like the idea of scarcity, that our legislating bodies are creating scarcity of housing. They're creating scarcity of energy. And that generates profits for the people that end up still able to build homes or generate electricity. So you have a lot of special interests that have already co-opted most of these billionaires, but you only need one billionaire. We also have the power of the internet. And if you keep your tone reasonably moderate, you still can't get banned. It's possible, and no one's really done this yet, but it's going to happen, where people are going to be able to raise signatures using the internet, using downloadable petitions, going through all the verification processes, and quite possibly they'll be able to gather signatures at a fraction of the conventional cost. So there are ways to make this happen.
Well, I, for one, applaud you. I've done several petitions of my own here in Nevada. We have a little more, a higher bar, if you will, on our petitioning process than California does. But are you suggesting these would be constitutional amendments, these 10?
Well, they might as well. You have to get a few more signatures for a constitutional amendment than you do for a statute. But that's the sort of thing that when you're ready to actually get on the ground and start gathering signatures, you do your legal research and you figure out what it's going to take to make these changes. For example, to reform pensions in California, you need a constitutional amendment. To reform some of the problems we're having with public education, you may only need a statute. So, if you go down the list, public education reform, supporting charter schools, making it easier to build homes, making it easier to get drunks and addicts and mentally ill people off the street to help the homeless, restoring law and order by making it easier for police to do broken windows policing again, the technique that worked and got crime way down in New York City. And what did California do? They passed laws that make it impossible to arrest people for property crimes and drug offenses unless they rise to the level of major felonies, and that has to be reformed. We have to reform the environmental rules. The California's Environmental Quality Act is an excuse for lawsuits, and it's tied up development and infrastructure in its tracks, and it's doubled the cost to build things. It's tripled the cost to build things in California. We need to reform the renewables laws, where utilities don't have to buy power from solar power generators or wind power generators that include continuous power. So they only price what it costs them to set up solar panels and sell energy when the sun's shining, and then the utility has to go out and buy fossil fuel when the sun is down or the wind stops blowing. And of course, the people who build those plants are only allowed to sell their power when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing, so they don't have enough operating time. So it becomes very expensive to get that energy. That has to be reformed. We need to start building nuclear power plants. Anybody who's serious about climate change ought to be supporting that instead of opposing that. And we need to create water abundance. We need to build more reservoirs. We need to capture more runoff. If you don't like reservoirs, put it in an aquifer. There's all kinds of underground aquifers in California. Build desalination plants and stop charging so much to build them. They build them in Israel for 1/6 the cost that it takes to build a desalination plant in California. Widen the freeways. Roads are the future. They're not the past. Cars are getting green. Cars are getting smart. Cars drive themselves. Why aren't we building more roads? And let's take some of these pension funds and put some of that money, to put some of the pension fund money into bonds to pay for all of this stuff. There's $800 billion of state and local pension fund assets in California. Let's use 10% of that money for bonds. It wouldn't lower their rates of return very much because it's only 10%. Why don't we do that? And these kinds of things could be on a ballot. And I think Democrats and liberals and recent immigrants, everybody in California should see an upside to supporting these kinds of transformational changes.
Well, of course, your only opposition is going to come from your legislature, and that's what makes them upset. Is because if you go to the Constitution, it's very difficult for them to change a constitutional amendment, as proven by your Prop 13. That has stood the test of many a legislative attempt to withdraw the will of the people through a statutory means. So I can see why you would want to go right to the Constitution, skip allowing those legislators to have free rein, because you get it in, they can take it out when it's statutory. So talk to me a little bit about the opposition. Now, of course, we think you're being very reasonable, and you saw Rick and I both shaking our heads, yes, yes. In fact, bring it to our state.
Well, what happens in California is happening in America. You have an almost unbeatable coalition, and it's not a conspiracy. It's more of a convergence of special interests who all want the same thing. If you look at what's going on in the high-tech industry, for example, they want to build the Internet of Things. And what better way to get the Internet of Things, to get all of these Internet-enabled monitoring devices into every appliance in every home, but to mandate it in the name of stopping so-called climate change. So they love the idea of enforcing renewable energy, which requires all kinds of smart upgrades to the grid, which takes away the resiliency of the grid. They like the idea of making things not just conserve energy, but conserve energy to an extreme, where, for example, you can't run your dryer at a certain time of day unless you want to pay more for the kilowatt hours that your dryer might consume. And these kinds of micromanagement are very profitable to the whole high-tech industry, which is by far the most powerful private economic interest in California. And then if you look at the power of the public sector unions in California, why wouldn't they be in favor of all of these extra mandates? Why wouldn't they be in favor of this artificial scarcity? If you make it impossible to build housing in the name of climate change, which, by the way, is based on, let's not even talk about whether or not climate change is a real phenomenon caused by humans and by CO2. Let's just assume that that's true. The studies that say that building a suburb instead of building densely packed, infill cities with high rises and apartments, rapid transit, the idea that saves on greenhouse gas emissions is not necessarily true. If you unclog the roads and if you extend the urban footprint of cities, the jobs follow the people out to these suburbs. And if you don't have biased studies and you look at all of the variables that might impact greenhouse gas emissions, you don't have a strong argument for forcing everyone into the center of existing cities. It's a very inhumane way to treat people. A lot of people like to have yards. A lot of people like to be in the middle of cities, but they should have that choice. And it's not possible to bring down the price of homes unless you have not just infill, but also have extensions of the urban footprint and building cities outwards. There's just not enough to bring a price equilibrium back. But what happens if you do that? Property tax revenues go up because there's a housing bubble. Real estate speculators get to make more money because there's a housing bubble. Even the pension fund, their real estate portfolios benefit from this because they've got a portion of their assets invested in real estate that's appreciating artificially. So you have all of these groups that benefit when you have scarcity.
Well, we've been talking with Edward Ring, who's our guest. He's written an article, A Strategy to Transform California in One Election, and he has outlined that strategy for us here on Conservative Commandos radio show. We're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos radio network studios and around the world on the internet. We also come to you from our TV show on the AUN network in San Francisco, San Rafael, Marin, North Bay, San Jose, Silicon Valley, Santa Rosa, Wine Country, Redding, Chico, Sacramento, and soon in Carson City, Tahoe, and Reno, Nevada. We'll be right back after this break with our guest, Edward Ring, with our co-host, Rick Trader, and I'm Sharron Angle.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving, and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. Buyyourtimeshare.com. That's buyyourtimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
And thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle. Yes, that's Sharron Angle, and yours truly, Rick Trader. And once again, for rebroadcasts of our show, please check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. You'll find our TV show there. You'll find our radio show there. A lot of great articles and a lot of terrific information. Our guest this segment is Edward Ring. He's a co-founder and senior fellow at the California Policy Center. He's written a terrific article, A Strategy to Transform California in One Election. Edward, thank you for holding through that break. We really do appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Edward, in your article, the very first line, it says, California conservative voters are disenfranchised. That's a little bit surprising or shocking, or it shouldn't be if you follow the news, but this was the land of Nixon and Reagan. I mean, what happened in California?
Well, that's a big
question. I know it's a little off topic, but you know.
Well, first of all, California is not as liberal as its, for example, congressional caucus now indicates. Mm-hmm. California is about 1/3 of the voters are conservative, maybe by some measures not quite that. But if you look at California's congressional delegation, there's only 7 congressmen left, and there's 7 Republican congressmen. There's 46 Democratic congressmen, which that's not anywhere close to 1/3. Mm-hmm. So conservatives are underrepresented, both especially in the federal Congress. But if you look at statewide, you'll see the same thing. There's not a single high office that's held by a Republican. We haven't had a Republican senator since 1992 in California. So it's even worse in terms of what we're seeing in the legislature and in the Congress than it is in terms of the voters. So what happened? The voting process has been undermined. I guess you'd have to say because the Democrats are just better at running a lot of these campaigns than the Republicans are, and that's partly because they've got more votes and the momentum that comes with political power, but it's also because, again, all the special interests nowadays are lined up on the side of the Democrats, and you'll see this across the nation. It was astonishing watching the federal debates to listen to every single the presidential debates. Every single candidate was blaming big business, corporations, and Wall Street on the problems we're having in this country. And anybody who's paying attention, who isn't just completely biased or has some kind of an agenda, knows that for at least the last 10 years, if for not the last 20 years, the corporate money has all been going to Democrats. It used to be about 60-40 in favor of Republicans, and nowadays it's at least flipped. All of the most influential corporate special interests, including the gas and oil industry, they're all behind climate change. They're all behind Democrats. Wall Street is behind the Democrats. In California, the public sector unions are nearly 100% supporting Democrats, and public sector unions in California collect and spend over $800 million every single year in membership dues, and that's your tax money. Now, we did have the Janus decision, which makes it possible for public employees to opt out. We need to see a conservative movement arise within public sector unions, because 40% of public employees in California identify as conservative. So why isn't 40% of all that money going to Republican candidates? So there's a lot of special interest power in California. And when you take all that financial power, you get professionals, you get full-time professionals who are used to winning and know how to win elections, who are on the street, who are hiring professional operatives. They had thousands of people in those swing districts in Southern California, thousands of paid operatives collecting ballots in the last election back in November of 2018. The Republicans have nothing of the sort. The Republicans didn't even have up-to-date software that they could give their volunteers so that when they got on their cell phones with their app, they'd know which homes were registered Democrats and which homes were registered Republicans, much less having a ballot harvesting operation. So that's the reason why, even though California remains an electorate that's a roughly 1/3 conservative, you don't even have 1/6 of our Congress members that are Republicans. So that's half the problem. The other problem is, well, what happened? What happened to the electorate? Obviously, California's gone through profound demographic changes, and that shouldn't have mattered. It shouldn't matter if California's population has become diverse and there's all kinds of immigrants and people that are, not the same mix of Californians that we had 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It shouldn't matter, but it does, because the Democrats have very successfully portrayed Republicans as being racist. And they portrayed Republicans as being sexist. And they portrayed Republicans as being xenophobic and homophobic and Islamophobic and every phobia you can come up with. And that works. And unfortunately, it works. There's really not that much evidence that they can go all the way back to the 1990s, when California's voters did pass a citizens ballot initiative that restricted welfare payments to illegal aliens. That was over 20 years ago. And that's what they trot out as their evidence that Republicans are racist. I don't happen to know any Republicans on the West Coast here in California that are racist. In fact, I think they're less racist than Democrats in many respects. The Democrats are pandering to people. They're seducing people into resenting one another, and it's working. And Republicans have to meet that square. They have to go into these communities, and you don't have to be a brown person to talk to brown people or a Asian to talk to Asians. You can be a white man. If you're willing to go into these communities and say, look, you're being used. We can't afford to live in this state. We can't afford to build anything. We can't afford to get permits. We can't afford to run a business anymore. We can't afford energy. You're being used. They're telling you I'm a racist, and I'm not a racist. I'm a Californian just like you, and I can't afford to live here. That's something anybody should be saying to anybody who votes Democrat in this state. And it doesn't matter what color or gender you are. You should be willing to go talk to people who don't look like you and tell them, it doesn't matter if I don't look like you. I'm a Californian, and we're all getting abused by this system, by these special interests. Wake up.
Hey, Edward Ring, I'm glad I asked that question, but I'm sorry, because what happened is we're out of time, and I really wanted to talk more about, I call this a contract with California, but we got to have you back on to discuss this more in depth, your plan, because I see this as a truly bipartisan, you call it a bipartisan transformative political agenda for California, and it is non-political on things. But Edward Ring, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on Conservative Commandos. please tell our audience how they could find out more about your strategy to transform California in one election.
You can find this on the California Policy Center website. That's where all of it ends up.
It's a terrific article, and I encourage our listeners and viewers, especially those who are listening to us and watching us in California, please get this article. It's a must. I believe it is a must read. Edward Ring, thank you so much for joining us again. How can people follow you, and how can they find more about the California Policy Center?
Well, CaliforniaPolicyCenter.org is our website, and everything, there's a lot of things that end up in other publications, but it all ends up being archived and available on the California Policy Center website.
Edward Ring, thank you so much for joining us. Take care and God bless.
Thank you.
This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. Don't go away. Sharron and I will be back with more right after this break.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Well, Sharron, that just about wraps up today's show. I want to thank you for sitting in as my co-host, and please tell our audience how they could follow what you're up to when you're not here on Conservative Commandos.
It's easy, Rick. I'm at SharronAngle.com. So easy, just my name.com, SharronAngle.com. And I'd like to thank all of our guests. They make our show, of course. We had David Rubin from Shiloh, Israel, talking about Iran and the threat there of of nuclear war, Hans von Spakovsky, who is an authority, as we say, on a wide range of issues from the Heritage Foundation, talking about gerrymandering and how the Supreme Court got it right. And finally, we want to thank our newest guest, Edward Ring, who is from the California Policy Center, talking about 12 points that will get California back on track, actually transform them in one election. So we want to say a big thanks to all of our guests.
All right. So with that, we are out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow on TV and on radio.